token. Some PCs can have hundreds of macros, believe it or not. That's very rare, even if you're like 30th level. But at least dozens upon dozens, let's say. You need to manage all of those. And if that's what you want to find out about, you're in luck, because that's what we're going to be talking about in this video about macro management. So let's see what we can do with our macros. We can go to macro management, of course, over here, and append RE block. This is important. Let's say the importer is not applying some vulnerability, which it should be applying as part of your power. So we will go to append RE block to add that effect registration code, which we need. So we'll say OK here. And let's say we want to add it to Storm Sorcerer class feature. Say OK. Now it's asking, well, who gets this new effect that you're going to be talking about? We'll say an enemy within, let's say, range 5, and only one enemy, one creature, and his state has to be bloodied, let's say. So we'll say OK. So this will ignore any tokens that are not bloodied. Won't work on them. So we'll go and say OK here. And we will say we want an effect. No, it's not a system effect, like a pre-canned effect or something like that. So we want it to be vulnerable. So we'll go down and we'll see which vulnerability we want. Let's say he's vulnerable to cold. I have a wizard that I'm playing now that does this. He's cold based. So we'll say OK there. It says, OK, you want a vulnerable cold effect. It has that state up there to indicate that's what we're going to be doing. And it's assuming, well, the mod is 5. That's fine. It does vulnerability 5. And the range, again, we said it's 5. And it's a duration save. Yeah, that's probably the correct one. Well, it better be, because that's grayed out, actually. So we'll say OK to that. And it does that. It says appending complete. So let's actually go and check to see if it really did do that to Storm Sorcerer class feature. Look at that. It made a backup. So if you screwed up and you say, oh, no, I don't want to do that, then what you do is you click on Storm Sorcerer class feature, say delete, and then erase the backup from that macro right there. But let's see what it did first. Look at this. Choose targets. I know some of you are not programmers, but try to understand this. It's just calling the macro. Remember when we talked about run power earlier? How it's coded? Well, this is a little more complicated, but just a little bit. Here we remember how in the run power we didn't have anything in the second set of double quotes that were on that line. Well, we do now. We have range equals 5. That's easy to understand, right? So all tokens within 5, but their state has to be bloodied. It's not going to do any error checking. So if it can't find any, it's not going to fail and say macro defined error. And only against a single. This one here doesn't mean one token. It means true. Is it going against a single target? That's true. We'll learn more about this in the Frankenstein's lab discussions, but just for clarity here, in reference to what we've just done, and we have a prompt here. And if it finds some targets, so if targets is not equal to blank, it's going to run this register effect line right here. What's it going to do? It says state equals vulnerable cold, mod is 5. Let's see if it actually works. And once again, that is Storm Sorcerer class feature. So neither of these guys is bloodied, and they're not even visible. So let's say this top guy is visible, and he is also bloodied. State, damage and health, bloodied. Now, it should automatically choose him because he is the only bloodied enemy within 5 squares. Let's see what happens. So Vanny goes down to his class features. Storm Sorcerer class feature. No, notice you can still run the backup if you want to. We didn't delete it. So Storm Sorcerer class feature. Say OK. Lo and behold, yes, it worked. So it found the bloodied token and applied the 5 points of vulnerability right there. That looks good. So let's see what else we can do with macro management. We can create a quick button. Very important. I have a gentleman in my group right now who says to me, yeah, dude, I don't want to go through the arsenal menu each time to run equip weapon. So how about you make a quick button for me to make that a little easier? Now, here's the thing, though. We can't say okay here because equip weapon is not on LibColon Vanny. It is on the MPB. So we select the MPB. This will take a while because there's over 300 macros on the MPB. It needs to read all of them and create a menu for you, which it has done here. So we go down to equip weapon, say OK, and it asks for a label. I usually keep it the same. You can use a different one if you want. That's fine. Because this, remember I said don't change the names of powers and stuff like that. But this isn't a power. It's a quick button reference. So it doesn't matter what this label says on the button. You can choose a different state if you want. Since it's weapon based, you might want to choose melee, for example. You don't have to do that, but anyway, font size is 1. If you need it bigger, then you can fiddle around with that value. If you want to put it slightly larger at 1.1 or something, I usually just leave it at 1 because I'm fine with the default font. If you're not, then hey, it's your token. You do whatever you want. Okay, and it's asking to put equip weapon in its own group, maybe. Yeah, let's do that. Actually, let's put it in an arsenal group. These are all the group names that we can choose from. You can even put in the root if you want, or make your own group, user defined. If I click that, it'll ask me for a name, and you can actually put a name in. So it's done that now. Let's see if we have an arsenal group now. Yes, we do. And there it is. There's equip weapon. And we can click on that, and it says equip slot main, and we'll cancel out of that. That's cool. You could have put it in the quick group if you wanted to. This is the default set of quick buttons that you get as defined by the importer. You can actually change that if you want to on the MPB. You can go down to properties, and they are listed right. Let's see, where are they listed? Right there, under weapons. Actually, under consumables. Shift, altitude, -1, altitude +1. If you can edit that if you want to for a macro that is on the MPB. We could actually put equip weapon in there if we wanted to. We can edit that, and then all tokens created by this MPB will have that as a default. So that's kind of neat right there. Let's see what else we can do with macro management. And let's see, we can find macro on map. So let's say okay to this. Let's say you have, and I do have, a map with hundreds of tokens, and we want to find, let's say, Stormwalk. Who else on this map has Stormwalk? That's what we are asking here. So we'll say okay here. And turns out nobody, because we only have Vanny and we have the skeleton. So that's not going to work. Whereas when we were doing the import before, for Lightning Strike, it saw Sparkle. Remember, LibColon Sparkle? Saw that, looked at the macros on that token, and said, hey, it's got Lightning Strike. And it also said it had Whirlwind. Remember that? And it asks us, do we want to copy it over? So that's what Find Macro on Map is doing. You have to actually have the macro already on your library token in order for that to work, or as part of the import. So promote to MMHOF. While we're talking about Lightning Strike and how incredibly amazing it's been coded, how it's perfect, it works just the way we want to, you say to yourself, I really like this Lightning Strike. How about from this point forward, even if there isn't a live colon sparkle around, we still want it to be copied and used automatically. Actually, this won't copy it, but it'll copy it up to the Hall of Fame, but not after that. So we'll say okay. And it's asking, okay, what's this macro that you're so proud of that works so well that you want everybody who's using something called Lightning Strike to use instead? We'll select Lightning Strike. We'll say okay. And look at this. Lightning Strike promotion complete up to the Macro Hall of Fame. Let's check. We click on the Hall of Fame. And look at that. Lightning Strike. So now anytime anybody anywhere on the map which has this particular Macro Hall of Fame on it tries to run Lightning Strike, even Vanny, it's going to say, no, forget about your Lightning Strike. I got one that's even better. That's on the Macro Hall of Fame. And it will use this copy instead. And it'll even say in the chat, yep, I found the same Lightning Strike on the Macro Hall of Fame. We're using that instead, and it'll run that automatically. If you don't want that behavior and you say, nope, I want to use my own Lightning Strike, well, then delete this. There we go. Now we will go to macro management again and see what's next. Quick button group. Say you want to get a whole bunch of quick buttons defined, not just a quick weapon. And you're so swappy, if that's a word, with all your weapons and implements, you say, no, that's not enough. Just a quick weapon? I want all the arsenal menu to be done. So you say quick button group. We go to lib colon macro police box. We say arsenal. Okay. Look at that. It does a group called arsenal, and it puts every single macro in that arsenal menu in here. And by the way, just a niggling point, it does not do a second equip weapon. It's smart enough to see that equip weapon is already there, and it doesn't do a duplicate because you can't do that. I don't think we talked about that in the... Okay, I don't think I talked about that. What's this wee stuff? In the architecture video. If you go back to that and take a look at his macros, and let's say we have 2 seasoned veteran feet. For whatever reason, we have 2 macros with the exact same name. Watch what happens. Let's say we try to do common free no. Okay, looks like we can do that. Let's see. I think what you have to do is actually go feats free no. Okay, so duplicate macros found for seasoned veteran feat. So if it's any other menu, that should work fine. But it looked at that group, the feats free no group, and it found a duplicate macro. So that's not good. So if you ever do that, if you're making macros manually by yourself, make sure that they all have unique names. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble for that one particular menu. Rebuild power. Let's try that. Let's talk about that seasoned veteran feat again. This is the better way to do it. If you want to make a change to it, then bring up the power again. We want to add some flavor text because we think that's boring having it blank like that. We'll say I am so experienced with my longsword because I'm a veteran. We'll say okay, and it's going to rebuild that power for us. Kind of like a Pandari block that we saw earlier. Remember to keep clearing your memory, and we'll try to run it now. See what happens. It's the only one there, so actually, no, it's not. We have a backup there. So we won't run the backup. We know that doesn't have the flavor text in it. We'll say okay to the new one. And yep, I am so experienced with my longsword. It made the change. And you can change anything else if you want to. And last but not least, retrain power. Say okay. You have gained a level and you have lost one of your at wills, let's say. Let's say you lost Stormwalk as part of that leveling up and retraining, if that was the case. Stormwalk retraining complete. That means it will no longer be available in your at will group. We click on live colon Vanny, go to at will, it's gone. Actually, it's not gone. It's actually been moved down to unused. You can delete it from there if you want to. And that's how we manage macros in the framework. Thanks for watching.